Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, you're having a great day. It's the second week that I've been doing these live episodes, so definitely having some fun with it. And hopefully, you guys are enjoying it as well. I see a couple people in here you already know. If you're stopping through, say what's up. If you want to say where you're watching from, it's all good. Got a couple things I want to go through on this episode. I mean, if you saw in the description when you clicked on it, you already know, but we're going to talk about the U.S. women's national team. What's going on, Jory? See you in here. Uh, for some reason the chat's not popping up, but what's going on? Yeah, so I'm talking about the U.S. women's national team because it's kind of been a story recently. Leonard was going on. One of the Twitch guys from the FIFA streams. It's going on. Uh, those will be coming back. Leonard, I know it's been a couple of days. I'll probably go live later today with the next installment of the career mode, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Um, but we're also going to talk about the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Talk about it from the perspective of my Red Sox team as well as just looking across the landscape of everything. Who did what. Not a lot of major moves, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Obviously, got to talk about Jonathan Taylor, plus some other running back news that could be happening soon. Not sure. Then I'll kind of end it with we'll take a look at the AFC because the Hall of Fame game is Thursday. We know not a lot of the big names are going to play in it, but it just signals that football is like officially back. We can really start thinking about it. It's the time of the year where you'll tune into the preseason games just to see, how's that rookie doing that we just drafted, or that second year player who maybe didn't get an opportunity last year. Maybe they take a step forward, and it's a lot to look forward to. So I'm kind of just going to look at it and the teams in the AFC, come up with some storylines and some questions that I have, not necessarily for every team in the AFC, but I think the top ones that we probably should be looking at going into the season. So let's go ahead and get going with the U.S. Women's National Team. Look, I don't know how many of you necessarily watched their games because the times have been kind of odd with the uh, tournament happening in Australia. So the time difference for those of us here in the United States kind of wacky. But they were in the group with hold on a second, the Netherlands and Portugal, Vietnam. So for most people, looking at the U.S. team being the number one team in the world seemed like pretty easy group to get through. Turned out it was anything but that. What's going on, Key? See you watching. The we knew that the biggest competition in the group was going to be the Netherlands. That's a given. Netherlands are what, third in the world, or they're third or fourth in the world, and they're a very good team. I mean, you saw when they played against the U.S. Very good competition. Now that the U.S. has advanced, there's been a lot of talk. What's going on, Coach? From Carly Lloyd, Alexi Lawless, or Rob Stone. They've kind of gone viral for their reaction to the U.S. Women's team and them celebrating getting through the group, even though to them, the analysts, they didn't necessarily like the way the U.S. did it. I mean, do they have a point? Yes, I guess because if you look at the previous two World Cups, which the U.S. did win, they were just the more dominant team in the world. So fans have gotten used to seeing the U.S. team going up against whoever and just demolishing them. And that's just not happening right now. I think there's several factors to that. One, the U.S. women, yes, being number one in the world is one thing, but if you watch the team on the pitch, there's different names. There's a lot of players that this is their first World Cup. So I think some of the U.S. women's fans may be spoiled because of how dominant they've been when you're looking at it, like Trinity Rodman, first experience with this, so it's the first time that a lot of fans get to see her on this type of stage. You know, I think Sophia Smith is relatively new in terms of like starting up front. I mean, yeah, you have Alex Morgan, but gone are the days of like Abby Wambach, a younger Rapino, Tobin Heath not there. There's a lot of big names who aren't in this tournament. Becky Sauerbrunn, and I just think that we have to kind of give this team a chance to grow a little bit. So I didn't have a problem with them, I guess, celebrating, which you know, celebrating getting out of the group, even though it didn't look like it usually does. Because getting out of the group is something to celebrate, especially for the players. Like I said, it's their first World Cup. Also, what you have to look at is the teams in the group. If you saw how they played the U.S., they played very defensive. Vietnam got it started in the first game, even though the U.S. won that game 3-0. People still came out of that game looking at it like, how come the U.S. only won 3-0? Vietnam got basically everybody they could behind the ball, played a defensive shell, because look at how many shots they blocked in that game. And their keeper made some key saves as well. They tried to be very physical with, Alex Morgan and some of those players when the U.S. were on attack. And I feel like the other teams in the group kind of followed that. Now, the Netherlands can do that because they have the ability to do that and have a lot of skill going forward in the attack, which Vietnam didn't necessarily have. So the Netherlands game, which ended in a draw, I feel like we kind of expected that. Now, the Portugal game, I guess might have been the game that maybe set a lot of the critics off because Portugal is a country that this is their first World Cup. So the expectation was that the U.S. with the experience and of being on this type of stage would kind of dominate that game. And it wasn't. It was a struggle to the end. Portugal, some would argue, probably should have won the game, especially with that late attack in the game where the shot hit off the post. If that goes in, we're talking about a different story with the U.S. being eliminated. I also think what you can look at it and say, if the group stage was this U.S. group's opportunity to gel and they'll be much better going forward, then fine, because we've seen that before. Oh my God. Oh, what's going on? Cottrell? Can't say long, but wanted to say what's up. Hey, I appreciate that. So looking at the U.S. so close to being eliminated, we've seen it with the Men's World Cup. I know a lot of people don't want to compare the two. Argentina, who ended up winning the World Cup, they almost were eliminated in the group stage. So not to say that it couldn't be done by this U.S. women's team. There is some precedent to it. But we got to see now what happens in the knockout stage, where obviously it's one and done. If you lose, you're out. They're going to have a very tough opponent in Sweden. Sweden is the number 2 team in the world. So I feel like if they do play the same way against Sweden, Sweden will probably take advantage and beat them. But I'm not going to, necessarily write them off just yet. I think there are some tactical changes that probably should be done, because I've heard that criticism for Coach Vlatko, whether or not he's the type to make those changes. I think that's a legit concern to have with the team. But the stuff about them celebrating getting out of the group stage based on how they played, I don't think that's necessary. And then the final thing before we move to the next thing, a lot of people have been going at Carly Lloyd for being critical of the U.S. team, which I feel like, look, if you're an analyst, just because she played for the U.S., she has the right to definitely be critical. To the point where I'm kind of like, I don't understand why she kind of walked back some of her comments because of the, backlash, whatever, from some people. I saw a lot of people who agreed with her, but it is her, I guess, first time in that kind of role. So, it is what it is. Leonard at work at the moment, so we'll have to dip. Brother, we'll tune back. Okay, appreciate that, Leonard. Like I said, Leonard, I'm gonna try to do a FIFA live stream later, so hopefully I'll see you there. So Cottrell says U.S. Oh, hold on, I forgot because of Facebook. I gotta pull these up. U.S. coach needs to stop being stubborn and just run a classic 4-4-2. Let these women run what they know. And I that's what I think. Where we should wait for necessarily that type of criticism. Yes, if he's going to go up against Sweden, run the same 4-3-3 that they've been trying to run, and it doesn't work and it fails miserably like it seems like it would based off the group stage, and yes, that's where I think a lot of the backlash should go. But the celebrating after advancing through the group stage is not something to really waste your time worrying about. I mean, I hope Vlatko makes that change. I mean, I think Carly Wood also brought up possibly having Alex Morgan as like a super sub. Although some people say Carly and Alex Morgan kind of have a little bit of a beef. Take that for whatever. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I want to see if there's any changes he makes before I try to be overly critical of the first 3 games. Because like I said, a lot of the teams played very defensive, and I do agree with you, Control, that a tactical formation change could definitely help that. You know, you could play. Well, I guess Control, if you do the 4-4-2, who are the 2 you would play up front? Because I think that would probably be a question. I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about what, Morgan and Sophia Smith up front? Then would you drop in Rodman into the midfield, or would you put, because Rodman was the 3rd up front with Morgan and Smith. Okay, Alex and Sophia. Yeah. And I feel like most people would agree. If you're going to play 2 at the front, those 2 would probably be the ones to use. All I'm saying is like it's definitely a change for us who watch this women's team to see them struggle as they have. And once again, if you look around, there's some big name teams that have been eliminated. I mean, Brazil got eliminated this morning, losing to Jamaica. Not a lot of people saw that coming. You know, it was Marta's last World Cup, so it's the end of an era for a legend in women's soccer. I mean, Italy got eliminated. South Africa's moving on. You have, what's the other big name? Canada got eliminated, and Canada's what, 6th in the world? Nigeria moves through in that group. And then we still have Group H to decide, but looking at their group, we could possibly see Germany or Colombia get knocked out. Rodman has been underwhelming to me. I see that, but once again, I mean, it's her first World Cup, so I feel like there's probably going to be some growing with her. But I like I said, I see what you're saying. Like if she, because of the switch to 4-4-2, if she ends up on the bench and comes in late in the games, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But I'm saying like that's the tricky part with this World Cup. They're number 1 in the world, back-to-back champions, so there's a lot of expectations. And seeing them kind of go through these growing pains or whatever you want to call them is just unprecedented. But like I said, who knows? Maybe they have an Argentina type run and struggle in the group stage and make it all the way and win it, get their 3rd in a row. Then all this will look like unnecessary. But Sweden in the next round is going to be difficult. So we'll definitely be paying attention to see how the U.S. handles Sweden. So, you know, when I'm back next week, we'll definitely be talking about that. Let's go on to the next topic, the trade deadline. So MLB had their trade deadline. Hold on. Control the last one there. Middle of our defense has been terrible. Yeah, and that's raised questions about Julie Ertz because she's been playing center back, but we know she has experience in the midfield. Is that a change that Vlatko would make putting her? Oh, you said middle of our defense. I read middle and think about the midfield. Well, actually, that does go into Ertz as well because she has been in the middle of the defense. Would you move her back into the midfield? Look, I don't know. We'll see. Because yes, the defense would worry me up against France, Sweden. I mean, Germany, like teams like that. Yeah, that defense would worry me. Uh, Got to take a shot at them Yankees. Hey, you already know that's coming. But Control, appreciate the comments for the women's team because I know that you've been watching. I've seen you wire to wire. You and Shally been talking about the women's World Cup. So I can't wait to hear you guys talk about it later today. So the trade deadline came and went. A lot of people were looking at the trade deadline as, oh, the Shohei Ohtani watch. Well, trade deadline came and went. Ohtani is still an angel. Despite what I would say probably the best judgment, because I'm assuming since the fact they haven't come to an agreement on a new extension, that he's probably going to walk in the offseason. But if the Angels know that, then why keep him when you could get something for him instead of losing him for nothing in the offseason? Some might say maybe this shows that Ohtani's told the Angels there's a chance he could re-sign. Okay, I guess. But then if that were the case, shouldn't the Angels have probably been more buyers during the trade deadline to kind of make it seem like they're really trying to go for it? They kind of ended up doing what a lot of other teams did and made a couple like minor moves, which maybe that's enough to push them into the playoff spot because right now I believe they're sitting with 2.5 out of the wild card. Let me double check that because I believe Red Sox are 1.5. I think the Angels have just passed. Up there for my guy Kyle Evers, who's killing it. Salute, appreciate that. Because if you look at Mo, what's going on? So if you look at the standings, the Angels have moved past the Yankees, which always a good day for me. The Yankees keep falling further and further back, but we'll talk about the Yankees in a little bit. So I think for the Angels, it's that tricky situation where, yes, looking at the division, they're 5.5 back, but the Astros made a major move during the deadline that you would think would propel them possibly into overtaking the Rangers. The Rangers made moves as well. So I think the Angels' best shot is at the wild card. But if you're looking at the wild card, you're talking about the Rays, Astros, and Blue Jays owning the 3 wild card spots. And then once again, Red Sox are 1.5 back. So the Angels are 3 back, not 2.5. And the Yankees, Mariners are 3.5 back. If the Angels were to make a wild card run, like who would fall out? I mean, I think the Blue Jays are kind of on shaky ground right now, but I just feel like with the bats they have in that lineup, I think they can overcome whatever pitching woes they may have and keep a spot. The Rays are kind of too far ahead right now. I just think the Rays are legitimately going to be a wild card team unless they catch the Orioles, and then that way the Orioles will be a wild card team. The Astros, I do think they probably overtake the Rangers because, the Astros just have that been there, done that mentality. They've hung in the race, even though the Astros dealt with some injuries earlier on, but they're kind of clicking right now. So the question might be with the Rangers, because it's been a while since they've kind of been in this position of having a really good team. Can they hold on to it with the pressure of the Astros right on them? And these wild card teams, that they were to fall into that race, being right there behind them as well. So Cottrell says, interesting to see the Rangers go get Scherzer and the Astros made the response move to get Verlander. Yeah, that definitely was kind of the storyline of the trade deadline, because that works in the Mets, who the Mets, like the Yankees, spent a lot of money, didn't get a lot in return for it. And, Mets fans are definitely upset today, because by sending off Scherzer and Verlander, you're kind of showing that this year was a failure. Then Mets ownership coming out talking about next year is going to be a transition year. They may not compete until 2026. That's not going to fly in New York, a major market where you got money to spend, and you're going to tell your fans that they got to wait 3 seasons now before you're competitive. And in that division, especially for Mets fans, you got to look at the Braves, who you could argue are the best run team in baseball, where their core are nothing but young, still ascending players. Like, as good as Acuna is, you may not have even seen the best of him yet, which is scary. But they've got the pitching down. They have the young hitters. They're exciting to watch. For the Mets, Mets fans would hope that year in and year out they should be fighting the Braves for the top spot. But if the ownership's right, and it's going to be a couple of years of kind of mediocrity in New York, it might be rough. And then, as coach said, you got to take a shot at the Yankees. Look, the Yankees are sitting in last place right now. They had a very quiet trade deadline, which Yankees fans were not expecting, although you need to be realistic with it. What were the Yankees offering that any team would want? Hold on, see. Fans can't be mad at Cohen. He tried to throw money at everyone. I respect him trying to build the right way. That's the same thing. So Cottrell, that's the same thing I say to Yankees fans, because, if you see Sports Empire Network, Jordan's a Yankees fan, and he talks about Cashman a lot. They have the second highest payroll. Mets have the highest payroll. Yankees have the second highest payroll, or third. It's like top 3. At that point, can you blame ownership? Because they definitely put money into players. Like, maybe you can have a issue with who they spent the money on. But looking at the Yankees, Stanton's hitting 195 or 196. I don't want to cheat him that 1 point. Volpe, who was the great young prospect we heard about, he's hitting 205. DJ LeMahieu's getting up there in age, but he's hitting like 250. And I feel like he was supposed to be a guy who was going to hit like 300. I think that's what he did with the Rockies, but he's older. You can at least, live with that. Judge has been hurt, but looking at, Aaron Judge's numbers, though, like, he's got 20 home runs, which is not bad considering the games he's missed. He only has like 40 RBIs. So what does that let you know? Guys in front of him aren't getting on base, which leads to my whole problem with why Yankees fans can't understand why they're not winning. They don't have enough guys who can just get on base. They've built their team for that, little league stadium that they play in. Oh, let's just get a bunch of left-handed hitters who will just knock it out of the park. Okay, but when you go up against pitching staffs like the Astros, that we've seen them struggle in the playoffs when they've met the Red Sox recently, because any team that has great pitching can neutralize hitters that are boom or bust. So, it's, you want to feel for New York fans, but then you don't, because, like I said, Yankees all this time, they feel like just because they pay a bunch of money, they think they can get everybody. They assume they're going to win every year, even though it's getting to the point where you're almost forgetting the last time the Yankees were even relevant in terms of the World Series talk. But Let me catch up on some of these I missed. Yeah. Yankees fans are pissed yesterday. All they got is Keaton Middleton and Spencer Howard, a guy they got over. Yeah. Yep. And they still have, Josh Donaldson. They still have Stanton. They still have, they have a bunch of guys underperforming, and all you could bring in was a couple of relievers who I don't even know how many casual Yankee fans or Yankee fans really know much about those two. Because once again, to bring up Jordan, he talked a lot about, oh, why didn't we get this guy or whatever. I mean, I'm not big into like minor league baseball, but I feel like Yankees farm system isn't that great right now. Not to say the Red Sox farm system is much better. I think it's better now, but it's kind of just a different era in baseball right now. Look at the teams that are at the top. Braves, Orioles, Braves. Well, just look at those three teams right now. It's about bringing up young players, spending money wisely. Just because you can throw the most money at names doesn't mean it translates to World Series anymore. And until these New York teams realize that, they're going to kind of keep running around in the same circle. I appreciate that, Cottrell. Might be back depending on how long you're going. I'll probably be on for like an hour, a little over that, but I appreciate you stopping by for sure. Ricky Henderson isn't walking through that door. Very true. Yankees ownership refused to pay any pitchers. That's just bad foundation. Well, they went out and got Carlos Rodon. And didn't he get knocked around last night? I know he's coming back from injury or whatever, but I don't know. It just seems like with the Yankees, players go there and their careers just fall off. Because I keep throwing in Yankees' face. James Paxton, who's with the Red Sox now. Yankees made it seem like James Paxton was broken, no good, overrated and stuff. And he's gone to Fenway, pitched really well, but he couldn't do that with the Yankees. Yankees aren't even good with Aaron Judge, even in that lineup, so it doesn't even matter if he's in the lineup. They're still not even. Yeah, the Yankee fans don't want to believe that because he broke the home run record last year. He's the MVP. Blah blah blah. Did they reach the World Series last year? No. And now they're sitting there 55 and 52. And once again, they're trying to tell us we're only 3.5 back in the wild card. I didn't know that the Yankees spent all that money to be 3 games over 500 and kind of in the wild card race. Like, give me a break with that one. Look, the Red Sox are 57 and 50. But they were expected to win, I think their over-under going into the season was like 75. Because a lot of people thought losing Bogarts in the offseason, a lot of people thought Chaim Bloom's job was in jeopardy. I could say the Red Sox have outperformed expectations. Now, I did say before the season, I thought the Red Sox were going to win 86 games. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. I might have been onto something. We'll see. What makes me hate the Yankees even more and enjoy this is because every time we beat them, it's an excuse. We've been open. The Yankees been owning the Yankees since 2015. All I can bring up is I can't stand that argument either, because I think since the Yankees' last World Series, the Red Sox have won like 4, and for the lovable losers that the Red Sox were supposed to be, that's still a better stretch run than the pinstripes. And yes, the 27 World Champions. Yeah, they won a lot of them back in like the 30s or something. Okay, because you had Babe Ruth. Whatever. I mean, that's probably not even a true statement, but it's the Yankees. Who cares? Haven't did anything since 2009. You still did not like Boston and all, but I have more respect for Boston because they never made an excuse. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, yes, the Yankees talk about the trash can stuff, whatever, but they're celebrating, Herman's perfect game, and he's a dude who's cheated. So, like, come on, Yankees fans. For the 27 World Championships, I figured you guys would be all about winning. Doesn't seem like that, but you know. But yeah, like Cottrell brought up, the Astros by getting Verlander, which and Scherzer, I feel like for those two, getting them out of New York will probably be the best thing for them. Back before color TV was when most of these titles were won. Yeah, and I mean, let's be real. For a dude like Jordan, like 24 of them were probably won before you were born. I don't want to hear you talking about no 27 World Championships. Come on. Garrett Cole's pitching with Spider Tack. Yeah, but that's okay. That's why I love the fact that Cole has a home run issue when he pitches against the Red Sox. Like Rafi Devers owns Garrett Cole, and I love every second of it. But I mean, look, the Yankees obviously think Judge comes back healthy, they'll be fine. I just don't see it. Because outside of Cole, even with his issues, I think their pitching staff's pretty pedestrian as well. And if their lineup's going to keep hitting the way they are, I'm not worried about them. Okay, so the Red Sox, their trade deadline was pretty quiet as well. But I kind of thought they were in a weird position where I wanted them to get pitching, but what's going on, Key? I wanted the Red Sox to get pitching, but I could also understand why the organization didn't want to necessarily give up prospects for pitching when you have Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, and yes, Chris Sale is on the mend. I saw the report that he threw in a bullpen session. He's throwing like 96, 97 miles an hour, which is encouraging. But we know with Chris Sale's recent history, when he's on the mound, it's always been a matter of when does he get hurt again, not if. I would love to see Chris Sale come back for the stretch run at the end of the regular season. Be a guy who can go out there every fifth day, take the ball, go 6 innings. I would love that as a Red Sox fan. I don't know if I could bank on that right now. I hope he proves me wrong, because I actually feel really good about the direction of the Red Sox, even though, in the offseason, I was really hurt by the Bogaerts move because I was a big Bogaerts fan. And luckily they signed Devers after that, because if we had lost Devers too, I'd have been devastated. But their offense is actually better than I thought, and Trevor Story is supposed to be coming back. So there's reasons for optimism with the Red Sox, as opposed to the Yankees, where's the help coming from? We've been beat on the Yankees and been on the Yankees since 2015. That's 8 years we've been on the Yankees. We beat them 4 times in the playoffs. Yeah. And over that span, the Red Sox have beat the Yankees in the playoffs a couple of times. Wasn't the wild card game they beat them in? Was it last year? No, a couple of years ago. Loved every minute of that. But yeah, I just feel like over the next couple of years, I think it might be a serious struggle for the Yankees. I don't think the Rays are going anywhere. I don't think the Orioles are going anywhere soon. And I'm actually happy for the Orioles, because I've always liked their young talent. It was just that they never seem to kind of get a group of the young players playing well at the same time before they had to kind of ship out some of them. So I'm glad for the Orioles that they're finally having some success. I actually like Camden Yards. It looks really great on TV. But so like I said, the Rays, the Orioles aren't going anywhere. The Blue Jays are a pitching staff away from probably being really dominant. Don't know what their issue is with finding pitchers. And then even looking at the Red Sox, I think the Red Sox have cleared out some contracts and they could be in a position to maybe get a big name in the offseason. Not sure. Just saying. So looking at the Yankees, you're already tied up with Judge for several years to come. I had to look it up the other day, and I did not know that Giancarlo Stanton still has 5 more years on his deal. Like, if he looks like this now, in 5 years, I'm worried about what that dude's going to look like in pinstripes. Now, obviously, maybe 2-3 years from now, maybe they can move him because it'd be easier. But Yankees fans, get used to the new Giancarlo Stanton where he hits barely 200 and strikes out or grounds out a lot or hits little lazy fly balls to center field. I'm not seeing the same guy from Miami. The win against the Yankees, Kyle did not count Garrett Cole at the hamstring injury when y'all was having bad practice in home run derby. Counts to me. So yeah, I think it's gonna be rough for the Yankees, and then the Mets as well. Braves aren't going anywhere, and if the Mets are waiting around 3-4 years, Miami might pass them by then, which that's gonna really kill Mets fans. But I love it. Can't be mad. So yeah, trade deadline came and went. You guys figure that the Astros did the best in getting Verlander. Red Sox got Luis Urias from the Brewers, who's a guy that's struggled this year, is in AAA. But if he can regain his form from 21-22, I'm happy with it. He can fill in at third base when you want to give Devers a day off, because right now they're kind of playing Turner as Devers' backup. I'd rather see Turner at first base if he's going to play in the field. Although he played second base over the weekend and made a really great play up the middle. Shocked me. I didn't know his 38-year-old body could play second base, but he did pretty well. But yeah, I'd rather have Turner be either DH or first base. I think Urias, if he can regain his form, can help out there. He can factor in at second base or shortstop, because when Trevor Story comes back, he was playing second base before he got hurt. I know in Story's mind he wants to be a shortstop. We'll have to see how that plays out, especially now with Kike Hernandez sent back to the Dodgers. And Kike was really struggling at shortstop, but he couldn't play center field anymore because Jarren Duran came on. So I understood that move. But also glad that the Red Sox did not trade Verdugo. I heard those rumors, and I was not loving it. They kept him. He had a great night last night. He hit a 2-run homer that turned out to be very pivotal in the Red Sox win over the Mariners. So I'm excited for the Red Sox, excited to see the Yankees finish last in the division, and I hope the two kind of continue. But let's go ahead and move on to some NFL. Everybody's talking about it. I talked about it on the Big Three last night, talked about it on Cheap Seats Monday night. We got to talk about Jonathan Taylor because the running back position has become the biggest story in the NFL. Look, Jonathan Taylor, the realization is he's in an organization with an owner in Jim Irsay that wants to be Jerry Jones. He wants to be one of those owners that has their hand in everything, wants to be the biggest celebrity on the team. I feel like owners like that don't do well. Look, Cowboys haven't won since mid-90s. I don't even know the exact year anymore. It's been so long. But Jerry Jones continues to be, the Cowboys are Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the Cowboys. That's where I think a lot of their issues are. Jim Irsay is the same way. So if you want a comparison, Jim Irsay's your great value Jerry Jones. So whenever you hear him speak, you know he's going to put his foot in his mouth. And he did it again. Basically he kind of started off, a few days ago when he talked about collective bargaining agreement. That's what it is, blah, blah, blah. So whatever. He said, if he were to die and Jonathan Taylor were gone, the league would continue. Basically, I don't have the exact quote because I've seen it enough. I don't care. But it's a bold stance by Jim Irsay to take when looking at the product on the field. One, you have a rookie quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who not a lot of people know what he's going to look like against NFL competition based off of what he did at Florida and the struggles he had there. So you would think a smart team with a rookie quarterback that's trying to develop their skill, what would you want him to have? An elite running back, an elite tight end. That's usually where young players kind of get their improvement, is through those two positions. Because your tight end is your safety valve over the middle. That's usually the first place the quarterback's looking. It's also the area of the field where you have the probably largest margin of error, or even though it's not even that large of a margin. But if you're forcing a guy who maybe isn't as accurate to throw outside the numbers, you can get into trouble. That's where pick sixes come from. But also, you need a running back, because if he's going to hand it off a lot to take pressure off of him, you got to make sure you're handing it off to a guy who's capable. So Jonathan Taylor is as important to the Colts offense as anybody on any other team in the league. And for him to isolate him and make him kind of feel worthless right now is a bold move. And for Jonathan Taylor, unfortunately, there's really not much he can do, because, he could try to pull the Saquon Barkley and be like, oh, I'll just sit out. Well, that didn't even last long with Saquon Barkley because of his epiphany. He signed the franchise tag. I feel bad for Jonathan Taylor because he's a really good running back, even though last year was a dip in production for him where he had like 860 yards or something like that, which I guess modern day isn't necessarily a terrible season. But when you compare it to him rushing for 1,800 yards the year before, yeah, it's a drastic drop-off. I don't know where this goes. Irsay is, incompetent. He's petty. So he'll play chicken. He'll play this game of chicken with Jonathan Taylor. Because in his assumption, Jonathan Taylor is going to be the one that needs the Colts and will come to him and say, look, whatever you're offering, I'll sign it because I just want to get on the field. If Jonathan Taylor is really about it, sit out the first, 3 or 4 games. Watch Anthony Richardson get battered around by defenses. Have Colts fans, go into an uproar, booing and all this kind of stuff. Then maybe Irsay may crawl back to him and be like, look, what happened in the offseason happened, but we need you right now. And then Taylor can sign. I think there's a chance Jonathan Taylor starts week 1 because just for Jonathan Taylor's value next year, where he's going to be, or he could possibly hit the open market, although we got to assume Irsay would just slap the franchise tag on him. But for his own value, he probably needs to have a big season. But yeah, if I was a free agent or a current player on that Colts team, I don't feel good about wearing that Colts jersey right now. Seeing the way Irsay's run the team, not only with Jonathan Taylor, it's been talked about over on the network as well. The Andrew Luck stuff, Peyton Manning, even though I understood the Peyton Manning one. I thought Peyton Manning was kind of on the decline. Andrew Luck was seen as a can't miss guy. I understood that one. But when he's talking and tweeting, it's very easy to look at the Colts. And also, I forgot, Josh McDaniels. Remember, he took that job and then all of a sudden backed out of it. Supposedly after a meeting with Jim Irsay, he was like, I'm good, I'm going back to New England. Jonathan Taylor, we heard he met with Jim Irsay, and the first thing he came out of that was like, I gotta go. And he put in a trade request. And then of course, Jim Irsay, being the model owner that he is, told everybody, we're not trading you. So I don't know. Dan Snyder being gone, Jim Irsay is now maybe the worst, although Stephen Ross in Miami's on line one, waiting to answer that call. I don't know. I like I said, I feel for Jonathan Taylor. Got to feel for Anthony Richardson as well, because he didn't have a choice to go to Indy. Indy picked him. So what can he do about that? So I don't know. We'll see where this goes with the Colts. But now sticking with the NFL, also I did just kind of quickly glaze over the fact that Dan Snyder is officially gone from Washington. I probably should celebrate that a little bit more. So I will say for Washington, no matter what they do this year, it's a win for them because Snyder's gone. But it is kind of an important year for kind of the structure of the team because, there's questions about Ron Rivera, whether he should keep that job. I mean, they brought in Eric Bieniemy, who's a guy that everybody's been looking at, with the way hiring's been going in around the league. Probably should have gotten a shot a couple of years ago. And, for whatever reason, hasn't gotten one. But the fact that he's calling the plays in Washington, if they're to move on from Ron Rivera, you'd have to assume Bieniemy's the coach in waiting. Maybe Rivera goes to the front office or whatever. But so, yes, on the field, there is definitely some pressure on Washington this season. But looking at it from the overall perspective of Dan Snyder no longer owning the team, I think it's a win no matter what. The whole rebranding of Washington is interesting as well because they're looking to change the name. Now, last night on Big Three, Jordan brought up them going back to the Redskins. I think there's a 0.0% chance that happens in any form of the multiverse you want to jump into. I just don't see that. If I was Washington, here's some free advice for you. The list of team names you had before, there was one name that stood out. Don't know why you didn't pick it before. You went with Commanders. Go with the Red Wolves. Sounds cool. I could, see a cool logo design coming from it. I believe it has Native American ties as well, so you're kind of keeping with the same theme, just not an offensive name. Not that hard. There you go, Washington. Well, let's see. We'll see what they do. I mean, I guess if Snyder was still running the team, they'd probably just go back to the football team. But, yeah, we'll see if they decide to do that, which I think they should. Kind of create the aura of this is post-Snyder now. We're going forward as this team, this brand that's not tied to Snyder, and just make everybody happy. All right, so I guess we'll use the last part of this episode. We're going to talk about the AFC since NFL's back. Hall of Fame game Thursday. You're not going to see Deshaun Watson. You're not going to see Aaron Rodgers. But it's football. That's what matters. Now, looking at the AFC, so next week I'll do the NFC. I feel like we'll just talk about maybe questions or storylines that I think are going to be big going into the year. We'll say top five. We'll do top five for the AFC this week. Next week, top five NFC questions, storylines that are on my mind going into the year. So starting with the AFC, I think the one that's I think is a big storyline is going to be the Sean Payton, Russell Wilson relationship in Denver. Sean Payton was out of the league. He's back in as a coach. He's bringing with him an expectation of big things in Denver. What's going on, Smiths there? Another one from the FIFA series. So Smiths there. Just a sidetrack here. I I should be resuming the FIFA series later today, but I mean, for those of you who are into FIFA gaming and stuff, Smiths, there's definitely a channel you should check out on Twitch. Great energy over there. So just quick little ad for him. But yeah, the Sean Payton Russell Wilson relationship in Denver. I think for Sean Payton, maybe not as much pressure on him because as bad as Hackett was last year, Payton's immediately an upgrade just walking through the door. Set. For Russell Wilson, this is a big year for him because the struggles last year, like I said, tied to Nathaniel Hackett. But now you're getting a great offensive mind in Sean Payton. If Russell Wilson struggles this year, then all that talk about him being washed might become legitimate. Because if he couldn't do it with a great offensive mind like Payton, where else can he go and recapture the magic he had in Seattle when he had Pete Carroll, another pretty good offensive. Well, actually, Pete Carroll's more. I don't know. I think Pete Carroll. Actually, I just said that. I'm trying to think. Is Pete Carroll known as a defensive guy or offensive guy? Either way, the success he had back then will be in the distant rearview mirror if he struggles again this year. I expect the Broncos to be better, but well, we won't know until the games actually happen on the field. I think another storyline is going to be with the Jaguars. The Jaguars were the feel-good story last year. Trevor Lawrence getting, once again, another player who had to suffer through a season with Urban Meyer, struggled. He got Doug Peterson, thrived. But now for the Jaguars franchise, it's you kind of snuck up on people last year. Now with the expectations of you winning the AFC South, can they handle that? What's going on, Cool? I'm doing good. How are you? But so looking at the Jaguars, can they now handle the success of being a team that was a success last year? In that division, yes, the Texans are rebuilding, the Colts rebuilding while dealing with their front office issues. The Titans are going to give the Jaguars a run for their money, despite what some people might think. And if you're looking at makeup of the team, you might lean to the Titans, even though the quarterback position, obviously, you give the edge to Trevor Lawrence. But with the Titans getting DeAndre Hopkins to kind of offset the dominance of Derrick Henry, the Titans could be a pretty decent offense next year. With Mike Vrabel as coach, who I'm a big fan of, partly because he was a Patriots player, but I just like the way that he gets his teams up. His players seem to love him. So I'll always root for Mike Vrabel, even though he also has some Steelers ties, which, whatever. But like I said, I think the Jaguars, if they slip up a little, I think the Titans will be right there to take that division from them. So seeing the Jaguars coming back this year with kind of the target on their back, I'm interested to see how the Jaguars respond. Don't get me wrong. The Calvin Ridley addition to them, I think, is going to pay dividends. I mean, we haven't seen Calvin Ridley in a couple of years now, so there's bound to be some rust there. But, I mean, the video I saw, I mean, it's training camp. They're all in shorts and whatever, so you can't read too much into it. Ridley looked pretty good. He looked pretty quick off of his breaks and everything, so I fully expect him to be an asset there. Third storyline I'm watching for the AFC, Cleveland. Cleveland has been kind of a big talking point this offseason. I feel like to most people, you're either overrating them or you're wildly underrating them. I'm in the camp that I think people are wildly underrating the Browns. Yes, I know it's a big question mark to necessarily expect Deshaun Watson to all of a sudden flip the switch and go back to Houston Texans Deshaun Watson. But I could also ask, why not? He's still relatively young. I believe he's like late 20s, if that. Yes, he didn't look great last year, but he only played, 4 or 5 games after missing a whole season. He was bound to look a little rough. I think a full training camp, I expect to see, even if it's 80% of Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, the Browns will be much better. Look at the pieces around him. You have Nick Chubb in the backfield. You could argue he's the best running back in the league right now. Once again, people in Tennessee would probably say Derrick Henry, or I guess maybe it's just down to those two. Maybe Chargers fans would say, hey, we have Eckler. I mean, that's a wild stretch, but I'm just saying. So you have Nick Chubb. They brought in Elijah Moore, who most people just remember Elijah Moore for, I guess, his trade request out of New York. He's a very talented young wide receiver. You're pairing him up with Amari Cooper, who can still get it done. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's now your third wide receiver, I think is set for a big year this year as well. I think in that division, the Browns are going to be major players there. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that they'll overtake the Bengals or anything like that. But Ravens fans, if you think that you're automatically going to be second in that division, I mean, I know some Ravens fans think they're going to win the division, but that's neither here nor there. I would say do not take the Browns lightly. That's all I'm saying, because I think some of it is people forgetting how good he was in Houston. Like in Houston, Deshaun Watson was this could be blasphemous to some. He was probably a better version of Lamar Jackson. Just saying. He's Lamar Jackson with a better arm, a more accurate arm. So, that's all I'm saying. Watch out for the Browns. Fourth storyline for me, I don't really like talking about him, but Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Look, he's gotten out of the Green Bay, firestorm of the media that they have out there, and now he's in New York. So those times when he would struggle in Green Bay last year or the past couple of years until, fans relax and all that, that's not going to fly in New York. All that's going to do is get you on the back page of, I think it's the Post. Do they still print newspapers? I'm probably telling my age by even bringing up the back page of a newspaper. He's a guy that recent years hasn't necessarily been the best for young players. And if you look at the Jets, they have Garrett Wilson at the wide receiver position. Aaron Rodgers convinced the Jets to bring over Lazard and Randall Cobb. Is he going to phase out Garrett Wilson for those guys? That would be an issue. They're trying to sign Dalvin Cook. I mean, yeah, Breece Hall, who's coming off an injury, I guess that would make sense. But, is he going to create dissension in the locker room between the veterans and the young players? That could happen. Is he going to show up Robert Saleh if they have a game or two where it doesn't go well for him? That could happen. So a lot of these people who think just because Aaron Rodgers is with the Jets that the Jets are this magical Super Bowl team, I'll tell you to pump the brakes on that, because one, I do think the myth of Aaron Rodgers is actually much better than the reality. I think he's overrated as a quarterback. For all of the skills and the talent that he has, he should be more. Daily, what's going on? Another one, one of my FIFA people, what's going on? Hope you're having a great day. Aaron Rodgers has been wildly overrated. Like, if you look at his full body of work, one Super Bowl appearance, yes, he has one Super Bowl win, so he's undefeated when he gets there. But he should have made more than one appearance. He's been in the NFC in an NFC division that's been horrible most of his time. Because if I asked you who's been Green Bay's biggest opposition in the NFC North all those years when he was there, at work as well, so can't be here for long. But how's it going? I'm doing well, doing well. I was saying earlier that I plan to do another FIFA stream later today. Got to get back to the career mode, so maybe I'll see you then. But I understand. Doing this midday. I know people are at work, so I appreciate you just stopping by. It's all good. Um, but looking at what Rodgers has done, especially in the playoffs, that's where my hesitation is, trying to make it seem like the Jets are this overwhelming favorite. So I don't know. I could see a scenario where the Jets end up 8-9, 9-8, disappointing season, and Rodgers just losing his mind, dealing with constant pressure from Jets media. But is there also a scenario I see, the Jets catching lightning in the bottle, winning the division? Yeah, I do see that. But I'd still have my questions about Aaron Rodgers come playoff time. Smithster, say you're doing a FIFA stream. Yeah, I'll probably do one later today. I'm hoping to do one later today. It's definitely coming back this week. I've missed a couple of days, and I got to get back to, Chompin FC. We gotta get them out of League 2. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. So yeah, I don't know. I just find it hard to put too much faith in the Jets right now. That's just me. Maybe I'm too critical of Aaron Rodgers, and this is just the type of team that he needs. I mean, yes, the Jets have a really good defense, but offensively, they have questions with their offensive line. Rodgers isn't as mobile as he once was. Is he going to take too many unnecessary hits? Like I said, is he going to stifle Garrett Wilson to, target his safety blankets of Lazard and Randall Cobb? I don't think that benefits the Jets if he does that. So that's what I'm looking forward to this season. And then my fifth and final storyline would probably be the Bills, because Josh Allen seems to be taking more and more and more steps back ever since Brian Daboll left. You look at the way last season ended. I mean, yes, the Damar Hamlin stuff was a great story. Him coming back should give them an emotional lift this year. But he and Stephon Diggs, the little rip that they had early in the offseason, which supposedly is good now, I wonder if they start the season not necessarily as good as they think, do we get a rehash of that, of those two fighting again? If that happens, is Sean McDermott on the hot seat? We see the shift in the league where now everybody wants offensive-minded coaches. Sean McDermott's not. So if the Bills struggle again this year, will it fall on McDermott and he loses that job? If Josh Allen struggles again this year, it's going to be clearly Brian Daboll's the guy who made you. And now without him, just not as good as we expected. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Buffalo this year, which unfortunately kind of coincides with a really deep and talented AFC. Because, yeah, I didn't even talk about them because the Chiefs are the Chiefs. You know what you're getting from the Chiefs. But now you're dealing with the Chiefs, the Chargers, who have some issues with Brandon Staley, but the Chargers are a very talented team if they could ever put it all together. The Broncos, I expect to be better with Sean Payton. I'm not one of those who thinks Russell Wilson's washed, so I think he has a better season, and because of the Broncos will have a better season. You're looking at the Jaguars, who you figure will be in contention. The Titans are now probably more of a viable option with bringing in DeAndre Hopkins. The Ravens, with them, they're gonna give you probably 9, 10 wins. Should be a playoff team. The Browns are going to be better, as I mentioned earlier, because I think Deshaun Watson gets back to more of his Houston Texans form. The Bengals are still the Bengals. The Jets have a lot of expectations bringing in Aaron Rodgers. The Dolphins, as long as Tua can stay healthy, very talented team. My Patriots are going to be better than people think. Some of you might think that's a homer take, but it's kind of what I believe. Actually, I forgot to change this here. Questions and storylines. But yeah. So, yeah, the Patriots are probably flying under the radar right now, which kind of works to Belichick's favor. Belichick loves being counted out and then just proving people wrong. Like, I just named 3/4 of the AFC on top of, like I said, with the Bills, their recent struggles. So I think there's a chance Buffalo could find themselves on the outside looking in at the playoffs this year, which might be wild to say right now, especially well, maybe not, because Josh Allen is going to be on the cover of Madden 24. If they miss the playoffs, the Madden jinx would have struck again. Just saying. So those are the questions and storylines, my top 5 that I have for the AFC. Like I said, next week I'll do for the NFC, which should be interesting because the NFC, probably not as much as the AFC. I don't think is as deep in terms of like really good teams, but you could probably argue is just as competitive. So you'll have to tune in next week to see my questions and storylines for the NFC. Then probably the next couple of weeks after that, I'll probably get into more, predictions for the divisions as well as my playoff teams. Obviously, I'll give you that before the season starts. And also Super Bowl prediction. That will come before the season as well. But like I said, Hall of Fame game Thursday. I'm in full football mode right now. Well, baseball. I'm still paying attention to baseball, so baseball fans don't get mad at me. I still got to watch my Red Sox because got to see if they can get into the playoffs. But, Smithster, what time's your FIFA stream going to be? I mean, Smithster, you put me on the spot right there because I just don't have a schedule. I'd say probably, but I do know, with a lot of you who do tune in are across the pond. So I got to think about you guys. I'm gonna throw this out there tentatively. I'm shooting for like 6:00. So I guess that'd be what? I'm not sure what that is your time. Is that like midnight over there? I'm gonna try to do it even earlier because, like I said, I want to respect my people over there in the UK. So, well, we'll see. I definitely will try to get it going a little bit earlier to help you guys out because I am supposed to be on the Brutally Honest podcast some point today. So probably once I finish that, I may just hop on the stream right then. So it could be even earlier than 6. But I'm just throwing that time out there right now for you. So yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern, that's midnight UK, right? Yeah. I'm going to try to do it earlier. That's all I'll say. But yeah, so like I said, I'm in NFL mode. This is my time of the year. I missing got work in the morning. It's 10 past 6 now p.m. Oh, okay, I got you. Like I said, I'll try to do it earlier, but if not, I mean, it's all good. So, yeah. So, like I said, each week now with it being August, preseason going on, I'll be doing my series of I guess, predictions and preview leading up to the start of the season in early September. But yeah, obviously love hearing from you as well. You don't have to put like your 5 storylines or anything like that, but if there's a major storyline that you're, looking at, definitely you can put that down in the chat. I'll catch you some point. Hey, I appreciate that, Smister. I try to catch you as much as I can as well, because like I said, love the energy of your live streams. But yeah, so it's gonna be a wild year in the AFC. That's all I'll say about that. Some of my predictions for the divisions and playoff teams may surprise you, so that's a tease for weeks to come. But yeah, that's kind of all I had for my topics. Danny, if you in the chat want to throw out a question or two really quickly before I get out of here, I'll definitely make some time for you because, love going back and forth with you all. I mean, Smister and Delu, you want to throw out some soccer? We can definitely talk about that. I mean, one thing I could have talked about was I saw the Bruce Arena story with the Revolution. I mean, the Revolution are my team in MLS. Pretty simple. I keep it to my hometown area, so the Boston teams. Was definitely disappointed to see the fact that he's been sent away by the team for some inappropriate comments and all that, or some like inappropriate speech. Like that's not what we need right now. Like, what are we doing? Let the American football guys ask. How do you think Man United will do this season? Okay. All right. So the Premier League, look, I pay a lot of attention to the Premier League. The tricky thing with me with Man United is the expectation is going to be finish top 4 again. Because that's what they did last year. But when I look at the top 4, you already know Man City's taking one of those spots. That's a given. That's like waking up. Man City's gonna finish top of the table. I mean, if you look at, I just slipped my mind. Liverpool can't be as bad as they were last year. So I feel like they're gonna be back in the top 4. So that's 2 spots down. From everything I've seen and have been hearing about Newcastle, it kind of seems like last year is kind of like the beginning for Newcastle. So I think they're going to be in the mix. I've said, several times on the FIFA streams, I'm a big Sun fan. So I always pay attention to Tottenham. So I know Tottenham's going to be in the mix. So that's, 4 squads right there. Brighton had a really good year last year. Could Brighton crash the party? Maybe. If I were to throw it out there right now, I'm going to say I think Man United might get 5th, which puts them in what? Europa League? I mean, it's a step back, but I don't know. I just feel like Liverpool's going to take their spot in the top 4. I mean, I did like the video with, was it Onana going after Maguire? That was great to see, because a lot of times when I hear people talk about Man United, Maguire almost seems untouchable to some, but I thought it was a warranted, chewing out. Actually, hold on a second. Let me double check something really quickly. Trying to see, am I missing a team that's going to be up there in contention? I mean, Chelsea would love to be up there, but Chelsea's gone through way too much this past season. I mean, I think didn't Villa have a pretty good season last year? I think I've heard like West Ham might be in line to make a jump. it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for Man United. And like I said, I like some players on Man United. Like I like Rashford. He's kind of polarizing a little bit. He said some good things. I'm a United fan. I'm trying to get there. Like I'm a big soccer fan, and I try to take in as much Premier League as I can because I'm a big fan of the league over there. There's a lot of teams to keep up with, but I'm trying to get more, you know, knowledge about more of the teams. I don't want to just be, City, United, and Liverpool because those are like the bigger teams. I think a lot of people know about them. So I try to learn a little bit about like your West Ham's. Um, watch Leeds last year, but Leeds got relegated because they had some, American players over there. Um, it's gonna be a fight, but what do you think on the United new striker? Who? So this is an aspect, Mister. You have to remind me. So who's the guy that they're looking at? I do know that is a big need for United because times last year you were playing with Rashford in the middle, and Rashford, from what I've seen as well, I think Rashford works better on the, I guess, left side because Anthony plays on the right side. And I knew they kicked around Harry Kane, they've kicked around some other guys up top, but who are they using right now? Let me see if I could find out who it is. I mean, like I said, the season starts what? Not next weekend, but like the weekend after. So I cannot wait. Oh, okay, 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 okay. I mean, look, it was a need. I would like to see him play a little bit more, but I'd give it as a plus right now. It was a position of need. They got somebody. Uh, give it time to see how really good it is. I probably need to see maybe a couple of games in the actual season before I could judge whether it's good or not. But as long as it keeps Rashford out of playing in the middle, okay. And wait, didn't they use like Martial up there as well? Martial's another guy who I think is kind of polarizing to United fans. Um, but Martial as a bench option, I think is definitely good for them. Oh, they paid 75 million for him. Okay, so now we're talking a little bit there. That brings expectations with that kind of price tag, especially with the kit he's putting on. You making that money at United, you better deliver. Okay, but I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because now I'll know who to be watching. Because yeah, I do watch a lot of United games for sure. He's only 21 though. Okay, I'm not mad at it. Yeah, you know, give the young guy a chance to show what he can do. But yeah, so your original question, United will definitely be in the mix. If they finish in the top four, they'll probably be fourth again. But I don't expect them to take like some drastic drop and finish like eighth or something in the table. I think they'll be in Champions League contention again. I'm also interested to see what they do in Champions League this season as well. Okay, so what? So I said what? United. I said City. I said Newcastle. I said Tottenham. Um, like I said, I've heard West Ham could be pretty good this year. Villa's kind of been a team that's intrigued me. Oh, I completely forgot about Arsenal. Arsenal's in the top four mix too. Hmm. That's gonna be tough. I mean, if I had to pick a top four right now on the spot, I'd go City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then the four spots between uh, Manchester United, Newcastle, and probably Tottenham. So I hope I did well with a little Premier League talk there for a couple of minutes. What, okay, that's fair. Okay. Um, but yeah, once the Premier League season starts, I'll definitely be talking more about it on here as well. Maybe even do some watch alongs. I don't know. But yeah, definitely appreciate the question because I do like to talk soccer as much as I can, or football because I know that's the international term. Even though when I say it, a lot of American fans will be like, "It's soccer." Okay, we can live in a world where we can say both. Okay, who do you support in the Premier League? Uh, so as a Red Sox fan, I know the Red Sox have stake in Liverpool. I'd probably say Liverpool because I am a big Mo Salah fan. Um, I did like the Salah Mane duo, but Mane moved on to what, Bayern Munich. But I'm still a big Salah fan, so I'd probably say Liverpool if I had to pick one. Yeah, yeah, big time fan of Mo Salah. So I'd say Liverpool would probably be my number one. But like I said, as a you know guy here in the states with MLS, Premier League, I just like watching a lot of the top teams there. But Liverpool would be my pick sitting here, which I hope doesn't rub any of you the wrong way in over there in the UK. United close second. I actually would say United's probably my number two team because I think I made the comparison before. Like United in the Premier League is kind of like the Cowboys in the NFL. The Cowboys are like the biggest brand historically in the NFL, and I feel like United is kind of the same with Premier League. So when I started getting into Premier League, United was definitely a team that I caught a lot of games of. So I'd have to say that they're second for me. What do I think of Holland? I love watching Holland play. The kind of the stuff that he does out there on the pitch is just amazing. With EA Sports FC, I remember the little deep dive they did, and they kept showing that play like over and over when he made the run in the box, kind of stuck out his left leg, flicked it on, and got the goal, which is probably one of the greatest goals I'd seen recently. But Holland's ability to just find those open spaces, the runs he makes, like everything he does is just with great purpose, and he's just burst onto the scene and has been an elite goal scorer. Would you say he's the best player in the world or best striker in the world? Good question. I would. Yeah, I probably would say he's the best striker in the world. Now I know the original one you put was best player in the world. Now that best player in the world might be more of a discussion because there's some other players that I do like who I think are in the conversation. But even with player in the world, you might be able to make the argument that Holland could be. Like a lot of games you watch him with City, and it just seems like he's the most dominant player when he's out there. He can get wherever he wants to, and he's just a great goal scorer. Who would you pick? Best player in the world, top three. Ooh, very good question. So I would throw Holland in the mix. So I'd throw Holland in my top three. I would throw Mbappe in my top three, even though I need to see Mbappe get out of PSG. I need to see him more competitive competition. So if Mbappe went to a Real Madrid, I would love that. If, you know, ultimate dream, if he found his way in the Premier League somewhere, would be incredible. But I got to throw Mbappe in my top three. And then the third spot, oof. Hmm, mm, mm. I might go Vinicius Jr. I just love watching Vinicius play. That's just me. Um, I mean, Spencer, what's your top three? But Vinicius, what he can do with the ball at his feet, I it's just must watch TV to me. So that'd probably be my top three: Holland, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. And that's no slight to Messi because Messi's kind of killing in MLS right now. But because of his age, I kind of want to go with a younger crop. But Messi's still great. I'm sure Ronaldo is. I can't say I watched a lot of Saudi Arabian soccer. Sorry, but I'm sure he's still scoring goals and everything over there. But that's probably my top three. Very good choice. I say, hold on. Okay, very good choice to say what you pick. Probably really good choices. Okay, I'll take that. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody I'm missing. Yeah, those are the three that when you said top three popped in my head immediately. So those are the three I would go with. Um, I mean, bringing up Holland, like I love watching De Bruyne play as well. I I feel like his playmaking ability is really good, which is why I think Holland has been so good is because he has a guy like De Bruyne playing in the midfield with him. I mean, it's tough keeping Salah out of my top three. I'd probably put Salah as a very close four. Yeah, Salah's definitely in my top 10. I mean, I said he'd probably be a close four. I'd have to think about that, but yes, definitely top 10 for me. What's up, Control? So kind of closing out, but we were talking about uh, Smister asked me my top three soccer players in the world. Which Control, I know you watch soccer, and if you have a top three, you could definitely throw that out there as well. I mean, I just finished up my like top five storylines for the AFC going into the season, and I did talk about your Browns. I said a lot of people are either a lot of people think that the Browns are being overrated or underrated. I'm one of those who think the Browns are being underrated because I think Watson has a really big year. But yeah, we're just talking about some, soccer to kind of round out the show because some of my FIFA people jumped in the stream, so we were just going back and forth. But yeah, we're talking about top three soccer players in the world. And my three were Holland, Mbappe, and Vinicius Jr. And then we were talking about Salah because I said Salah is one of my favorite players to watch in the Premier League. He would be in my top 10. I mean, Messi would still be in the top 10, obviously, with, okay, Mbappe, Salah, and Neymar. Yeah, Neymar would be my top 10 as well. Which, I mean, Neymar is supposedly supposed to be on the move. Some have said maybe he's the next big name to join the MLS. We'll see. But, I mean, Control, would you agree with me that Mbappe's probably outgrown the French league at this point and needs to move on, which it seems like he's like hell set on doing. Basically telling PSG he's not re-upping with them. If he goes to MLS, I mean, look, it would be if you had Messi, Neymar chilling in MLS. All right, so Smith's their last one for you. What did you think of? Okay, so how Ronaldo left United. Look, I know that was tough for United fans to see a legend like Ronaldo leave, especially to leave and go play in Saudi Arabia. But to be honest, I think it was the right move for both situations. I feel like if Ronaldo stayed there, I don't think his time at United was going to age well. He was definitely impatient. He didn't necessarily think United was going to be a Champions League team, and that's what he expressed was his desire, even though he went to Saudi Arabia. But I think it was a breakup that needed to happen. And like I said, I know it crushed a lot of United fans, but with Ronaldo there, it just seemed like a lot of their play was let's try to force feed Ronaldo and get him goals. And I think it just hurt the team around him because I don't think United's built that way to really have Ronaldo be the focal point. Because look at how look at Man United last year. They made top four, and you could say they were kind of piecing together contributions. You'd have a 3-game stretch where, like Martial was scoring goals. Then you'd get a 5-game stretch where Rashford was the guy. You get a game here where maybe Anthony goes off and gets you a couple of goals. And I think that's the way United needed to play. But with Ronaldo, it was all about Ronaldo. So it was tough to see him go, but I think for the health of the club, it needed to happen. Yeah, for sure. For Mbappe needs to go to FC or Real, or even a Man City or Man U. PSG just isn't the same. Yeah. I feel like if he leaves, it probably has to be Real Madrid. Like Real Madrid has wanted him for a couple of seasons now. I kind of think that's where he ends up. But if he ended up, it would be such a Man City move to get Mbappe, which would make Man City even more of a cheat code as they already are. Smithster said, "Love the comments on that. Appreciate that." Like I said, I know that's a definitely a sore subject for United, but the time had come for Ronaldo to go. And I'm happy to see Ronaldo be happy in Saudi Arabia. He's there was some talk about him possibly leaving there and maybe flirting with. I think he's another guy that people thought maybe MLS run could be set up for him. I could see Ronaldo being like 42 and playing a season in MLS. I could see it. Like, could you imagine Ronaldo like LAFC living the Hollywood life? I would go to Saudi for a year, give me $1 billion to play in the sand for a season. Well, that's kind of the choice for Mbappe. Saudi Arabia's thrown big money at him. He kind of came out and said that he wasn't interested, which I can understand as well, because it's easier for Ronaldo to take the big payday because he's towards the end of his career. For Mbappe, he's right there smack dab in his prime, and he's sitting kind of on top of the world right now, especially after the World Cup he had. So it's definitely going to be something that a lot of these players are going to have to wrestle with. Saudi Arabia is going to throw money at anybody who's going to bring attention to that league over there. Smithster talking about Ronaldo again. He thought at the very end there, Ronaldo made it seem like United needed him, and he was like, "I'm just trying to do y'all a favor," especially that like Piers Morgan interview and stuff, which I knew once stuff came out about that one, Ronaldo had to go. Especially bringing in Eric Ten Hag first year there and to put this whole Ronaldo cloud over him, yeah, I that was just needed. As I said, yes, in his eyes, he's crazy in my mind, but I get it. He's in his prime. Yeah, that's the struggle for a guy like Mbappe. 1 year for $1 billion. Yeah, I mean, I kind of respect the fact that Mbappe turned it down right away because he could have done the thing where he let it linger out there a little bit to make it seem like he was actually thinking about it, but he was very quick. Like, I'm not interested. So what do I think about Ten Hag? I like the direction that he's seemingly trying to put the team towards. I think the questions about the Glazer family and what they're going to do with the club, I wish they would kind of resolve that because that kind of looms over the club as well. But from what I saw last year, I think Ten Hag was the perfect guy for the job. It seems like he brings kind of a rejuvenation to the group that I think was needed. And I think the timing of it was perfect because I thought he handled the Ronaldo stuff as well as possible. And who knows if somebody else is running the team, maybe the Ronaldo thing would have completely sunk the whole season. But I think Ten Hag's ability and his presence there helped those other players navigate through all of that. So I like what he's doing with United. Now we know also with United, all it takes is them to finish like sixth in the table this season, and people might want him out. But I think he's the right guy for them right now. Cottrell, I respect it too, but yeah. I mean, I'd respect anybody who could stare down $1 billion and be like, I'm good. Actually, was that the offer? Was the offer more like it was like 750 million or something? Either way, the numbers that Saudi Arabia is throwing at players, if any of them turn down any number from over there, I respect it. Because they if you are a recognizable name, they are willing to open up the checkbook for you. So yeah, we'll see what Mbappe does. I think it ends with him at Real Madrid, but you can never count out, City, United. I mean, Newcastle's got that new Saudi Arabian money to spend as well. Could Newcastle make a splash? I think Newcastle's linked to Neymar at one point. Like Newcastle's kind of looking to bring in a high price guy to make sure that they can stay up there with the big boys in City, United, and Arsenal. Are your Pats signing Zeke? I think it gets done, which I probably should have brought over the course of the storylines because it looks like between Dalvin Cook and Zeke, those guys are probably going to sign in the AFC East. I mean, Cook, it seems like it's down to the Jets or the Dolphins. Zeke has spent the past couple of days with the Patriots, so I don't know if it's something where Zeke had a number, Patriots had a number, is close enough that they're trying to reach that middle ground. But if you're telling me going to have a backfield of Ramondre Stevenson, Zeke Elliott, I can live with that. I think Zeke Elliott can help them with some of the red zone issues they had last year. Ramondre Stevenson, I think, is going to have another big year. I see him as over 1,000 yards guy. But if Zeke Elliott can be like a change of pace, I don't know, 500-600 yard guy, maybe that's too high, but I definitely could see the value for him there. Cook going to the Jets makes no sense to me. Look, I'm right there with you. I just think it's Aaron Rodgers' slow takeover of that team and trying to put veterans ahead some of these young guys that just need the opportunity. Brees Hall had a good year last year until he got hurt. Why bring in Dalvin Cook to then stunt Brees Hall? The same way I didn't understand the Lazard and Randall Cobb, because it seems like it's going to give Aaron Rodgers an out to mess with Garrett Wilson. And that would be dumb if I was a Jets fan. Yes, Zeke is great in pass protection as well. Yes. Which is a big thing, especially when I think the Patriots going to run a lot of play action this year. Got to have that back that can get that opposing blitzer. Can help any team at minimum too. Yep. Smithster, how do you think Chelsea will do this? I mean, Chelsea was a just disaster last year, and they sold off like 10, 11 guys. I think Chelsea's in for another rough season, only because I kind of need to see the replacements. How do they do? Like, I didn't understand Pulisic's lack of opportunity there. Like, I'm not saying Pulisic should have gone there and been in the starting 11 week in and week out, but he didn't really get any spot starts. Even as a sub, it seemed like he only went into games when it was like 82nd, 83rd minute. And it's like, why? So I think Chelsea has some inner issues to work out first before the product on the field gets better. But I think it's another rough season for Chelsea. And like I said, when Pulisic was there, Chelsea was a team that I did watch because of Pulisic. And I just didn't know what was going on with them last year. Also, I guess to quickly say, I like that Pulisic is at AC Milan. And I hope he gets every opportunity there. Because the Pulisic I've seen with the U.S. men's team, why that couldn't translate into Chelsea last year, I don't know. But hopefully we see it in Milan. Leading on to that, what do you think? Mount going to United, how do you rate him? I mean, they made their whole transfer window about Mason Mount. I think Mason Mount will be a contributor. I mean, I think they paid a pretty good price tag for him. It might have been a slight overpay, but I guess I get it because it's Man United. Like, the Man United shouldn't be, losing like players to other clubs. And if they targeted Mason Mount, like I said, maybe they overpaid a little bit. Which, if they did, that's gonna probably affect how people look at him. I think he's decent. I just don't know if he's worth the price tag. But like I said, he could, because like you said, you're not sure on him. Who knows? Who do they play with? Wolves, their first game. Maybe he has an incredible game, and we're both looking at it like, hey, pretty good signing. But I'm kind of right there with you. Not sure about it right now. All right, so Zeke. Oh yeah, I answered Cottrell's last one about Zeke. Um, yeah, I don't think there's any other like running back news. Yeah, Zeke, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Kareem Hunt's out there, and nobody's really talking about him yet. Maybe Kareem Hunt gets tied into the Colts. I heard that mentioned a couple times on Sports Empire because that would be a Jim Irsay move. despite Jonathan Taylor bringing another guy. Whatever. Couldn't happen to a better franchise. I'm not a guy. Yeah, as a Patriots fan, I can't wish well on the Colts. Don't like them. It is the wild state of the running back position. I mean, last year when they were talking about Kareem Hunt potential free agency, I thought he was going to get. Yeah, it's not even the fact that he's unsigned. I couldn't tell you the last rumor I heard about Kareem Hunt. That's wild to me. Like I figured the same way that Dalvin Cook is visiting teams. How come Kareem Hunt isn't, or at least they're not reporting it? Like you cannot tell me that Kareem Hunt is just sitting at home waiting for somebody to call him. That's wild to me. It's the state of the running back. Even though Kareem Hunt kind of fits the current running back state. He can run. He can factor in the passing game. What else do you need from him? And then we say all this, and for all we know, he may end up like on the Chiefs or something next year, and everybody would be like, look, the Chiefs did it again. Jimmer say bottom 5, yeah. Probably bottom 1, but definitely bottom 5. Washington seems like the perfect fit. They have no running back that is consistent. He was working. That's actually a really great point. Yeah, and like I talked about earlier, like for Washington, this is a kind of a free season for them because the Dan Snyder news makes this year a win already. If the product on the field could kind of outperform expectations, because what are they expected to win? Like, well, the over under 6.5 wins. I think there's a sneaky chance they could get over that. But if you put Kareem Hunt in that system with Bieniemy, he'll know how to use him. We expect the bump up for Sam Howell because of Eric Bieniemy. You got Terry McLaurin, you got Dotson. I mean, if Logan Thomas could ever stay healthy at the tight end position, you got Curtis Samuel. Washington looks like a sneaky, decent team. So that's actually a really good one. I could see Kareem Hunt in Washington. Like you said before, I just don't understand why there's a lack of rumors or interest around Kareem Hunt. Yeah, because we went over that on last time the Big Three we did the NFC East, and my prediction was Washington hitting the over, and I mean you went as far to say there's a chance they can make the playoffs. I'm not mad at that either. I mean that's something I'll probably touch on more next week when I talk about the NFC, but once you get past Philly and I guess San Francisco, even though they have question marks, I could see the NFC going like 10 different ways. And one of those, I could see Washington as a wild card team. They were almost a wild card team last year. And I think they'll be better this year than last year. So I agree with that. I mean, now that you talk about it, yeah, Kareem Hunt to Washington makes too much sense. But yeah, it's wild that even though Cottrell, I know you're a big football guy. Like we know why the running back market is the way it is, but I mean, you can't tell me that the Colts are treating Taylor this way when he's their offense, and they have a rookie quarterback, and they're trying to like push Jonathan Taylor away. You have the Raiders with their question marks at the running back position, and you got Josh Jacobs wondering where his money is. You got Kareem Hunt sitting out there. No rumors, no interest, it seems like. Zeke Elliott's been sitting out there forever. And yes, you're not getting, first, second year Zeke Elliott with the Cowboys. But now that the kind of big contract is not attached to him, he could still give you something. Dalvin Cook, one of the top running backs in his years in Minnesota, still unsigned. Hmm. What Leonard Fournette? Although Fournette probably definitely a level below those guys, but he's a guy who showed he could be productive as well in this league. Although not as much as he kind of made it out to be, because he was the guy like his rookie year or something who said NFL is easy. I was playing in the SEC. I don't know if his career has necessarily lived up to a lot of the hype he came in with. I'll just say, but hmm, we'll see. Dalvin is still in my mind a top 10 back. Yeah, it would be hard to name. Maybe 5 better than him. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it seems like he zeroed it down to Jets, Dolphins, and like you said, it almost seems inevitable that we're going to see here agreement between he and the Jets. Don't know. The running backs are in a weird time in history right now. All these running backs, if it was the early 90s, they'd be getting paid left and right. The fact that we're in a league now where teams will use 2-3 draft picks a season on running backs, hope to hit on a couple of them. If they don't, they're fine. That's what's going on. It's a copycat league. The Chiefs are winning Super Bowls without big name running backs. The Patriots had 20 years of dominance without necessarily big name running backs. They did it with a lot of cast-offs. The Eagles just sent Miles Sanders away, and they're going with a running back by committee of like 4 or 5 guys. The Bills don't even use a running back really. They have Josh Allen do it. That's just the problem. Top teams in the NFL right now don't value running backs, so the rest of the league is trying to follow them. So until, if Derrick Henry leads the Titans to the Super Bowl this year, maybe it looks a little better next year. I just don't see it getting any better for the next couple of years, unless running backs have to make some concessions like Joe Mixon did. Mixon heard the owner talk about they're prioritizing Burrow and the 3 wide receivers. And what did he do? Restructure his deal to stay there. He saw the writing on the wall and made a decision. Dolphins make so much more sense. He's a Florida boy, and he can go be running back 1 with no real competition behind him. Yeah. Yeah, because without, if the Dolphins don't get Dalvin Cook, they're happy with going into the season with Jeff Wilson, Mostert. They drafted what? Did they draft Devin a Chain? I feel like I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but with their pass offense, as long as Tua is healthy, I don't think the Dolphins are sweating necessarily if they lose out on Dalvin Cook. Although I'm sure they would love to have him, of course, but they understand their season is tied to Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua, and the defense, of course. Browns gave Chubb 10 to 11 million a year, and I thought it was a great contract. Like, grand scheme of things, that's kind of where everybody's falling in line. The Barkley franchise tag, was it 11 million? I'm sure if you threw 10, 11 at Josh Jacobs, he'd take it. That's going to be your top end for the running backs, probably 9, 10 million. Whereas some of these running backs are trying to push it to Why can't we get 14, 15 million? I don't know if any team's doing that anymore. So yeah, I'm excited for this NFL season. Excited for the Premier League season, which gets underway. I think it's next weekend. Like not this upcoming weekend, but I think it's the following weekend when Premier League gets going. So I know where my Saturday mornings will be. We'll be watching Premier League. We got the stretch run for baseball now. Once you get into August, you really start looking at the standings and playoff positioning because once the calendar turns over to September, it's like full speed ahead with baseball. NBA's really quiet right now. All right, so Cottrell asked, "Are you a college football guy?" I was just about to say, how do I explain this? I am a college football guy, but I feel like I probably should have more knowledge of it. I understand which teams are good, but when it gets down to like players and all that, that's where I'm kind of very low level with it. So I've been trying to get more and more like in depth with college football each season. Because I'll watch college football. I know Alabama. I know Georgia's good. I know Big Ten football because I watch that a lot. Michigan, Ohio State. I watch BC because once again the Boston connection. Even though it's rough, but I still watch them. But like Cottrell, I'm sure if I was like, who's the third quarterback in Michigan, you could probably rattle that off. I would struggle to tell you who's the starting quarterback in Michigan. That's why I'm like, I feel like there's definitely more room for me to get more into college football. But like I have enough of a knowledge of it to know who's good, who should make the playoff and all that kind of stuff. Which this is the last season without the expanded playoff, which I would have loved to see it this year, but I can win another year. Because I think that's going to be a game changer for college football. I know that some college football fans aren't necessarily loving the expanded playoff. I think it's great. Yeah, I like I said, I watch Ohio State. The Michigan Ohio State late in the year is one of the games I definitely watch, but I pay attention to Big Ten. I'd say SEC are probably the top two, which I mean it's the top two for everybody. Because of BC in the ACC, I watched that probably third. Big 12, I do catch. Pac 12, eh. Like I'll watch Oregon football because I feel like Oregon's just a cool school with the uniforms, the field, and everything. USC's a big brand, so I'll watch them. But outside of that, I don't know if I watch a lot of Pac-12. But yeah. Okay, so you like the college football expansion. You hate though that it will have some of these bowl games losing. Yeah, but I kind of think the players are sending some of the bowl games that way as well. Because it's getting to the point where, a lot of the top notch players, unless it was like a New Year's Six bowl, they didn't really care. And I think that was just going to slowly trickle down to other players. And at least with the expansion, it kind of winds the net of meaningful bowl game um, matchups. So, but I see where you're coming from. But that's why I think the timing was right because you were getting guys sitting out bowl games that they weren't even like top 5 picks. They were guys who might go second, third round. They're like, I'm good. That's a problem. At least now the expansion, you would assume some of those teams make the playoff. Now they're playing. Now, if we see some of these guys sit out playoff games, I mean, I don't think that's going to be widespread. That might be a case here or there. But I just like it because it's going to create new matchups. Like, if we kept it at the 4, we're going to run into Georgia, Alabama again, or Alabama, Ohio State. Like, those games are good and all, but I wouldn't mind seeing one year Alabama versus Penn State in a first round game. Just because it's just a new matchup in a game that matters more. You open it up to smaller schools, like one at least will get in. Yes, they may get beaten to death against the big name schools, but I just like that one opportunity that may come around once every 10 years where maybe the small school upsets USC. Like, think what that will do for those kids and the fans there. And that, like, it's the March Madness of it, where basketball embraces the upset. It seemed like for way too long, college football pushed it away. Like, college football made it seem like it had to be the big name schools that win every year, otherwise the sport doesn't do well. March Madness kills it, and we've seen Duke lose to Mercer. Didn't kill anybody's experience. It just made them watch it more. So the same thing's going to happen in college football. Even though, like I said, like if Alabama goes out there and loses to Tulane one year, of course Alabama fans are going to be like, oh, this is the biggest joke ever. But for me, I'd love to see it. But yeah, that's, I mean, just over the 2 hour mark, which when I first started this, I was planning to go probably an hour, hour 15. But it was definitely a good conversation. I agree with you for sure. I say it all the time. College football is the only sport in all of NCAA where not every team has at least a chance to win. Yeah, I just didn't understand that. Like the FCS, their playoff is what, 32 teams. Good luck getting, Division 1 to get to 32, but I wouldn't mind seeing that either. If the FCS can make it work, you tell me NCAA can't make it work? But like I said, we'll probably never get there. I mean, we got 12 now. I was surprised we even got to that. I've been a proponent of, I wouldn't mind seeing 16. I thought they were going to go to 8 and then spend like 20 years at 8 and then finally try to get to 12 or 16. The fact they made the leap to 12, I'm fine with it. But yeah, Control, you said it perfectly. The NCAA, their football, they just are slow to innovation. Like, college basketball had some pushback when they went to 64. Then they had more pushback when they went to 68. But it still works. And college football will be fine. So, but yeah, like I said, a little over 2 hours. I figure I might as well just get up out of here now. But definitely appreciate, like I said, love the interaction. That's one of the main reasons why I started getting into podcasting, content creating, I guess you have to call it as well. Is, I love sports, love talking about it. And it's, open up ways for me to not only meet people through Sports Empire Network, but just to have a audience to talk sports with. So, Cottrell, Mo was in here, cool. My FIFA guys, Smithster, Daylu, who hopefully I'll see them a little bit later on the FIFA stream. Good show, man. Glad I was able to hey, I was glad to have you in the chat, Cottrell, because, definitely love watching you on Wire to Wire with Gene and Shally. Love that show. So definitely is honored to have you in the chat. But yeah, so like I said, next week, because I'm now that I'm doing live episodes, do it once a week. Whereas before I would do like, 3-4 recorded episodes a week. figure once a week, do an hour, couple hours, cover everything I would have done in multiple videos. Plus, live reaction with you is much better. So, I think I started doing them like Saturdays. I think Wednesdays, kind of midday, might work. We'll see. I'm still trying to work that around and see which fits best for me. But yeah, so next week will be the NFC, where I'll go over storylines, top 5 storylines for the NFC going into the season. So make sure you tune in. But so for Facebook, if you're checking this out, I guess later as well, make sure you follow me there. That way you'll get the live streams every time I go live, and join my Facebook group, Chompin at the Bit for the podcast. You can interact with me there as well as everybody else who's joined the group so far. If you're over on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get these episodes as well. The FIFA streams, all that good stuff. And Twitch as well. Appreciate all of you. Where else? I think I'm on Kick as well. But Kick is a slow build over there. But yeah, definitely thank all of you. Like, subscribe, share, follow, all that good stuff. So until next week, I will say, be safe out there. God bless, and I'll catch you in the next episode. All right, I'm out. Oh, one last thing. I'll be on Pre-Gaming Pigskin Thursday night, 7 o'clock, over on Sports Empire Network. So that's the next place you'll definitely catch me. Or live on Twitch later today. So with that, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you later. All right, I'm out.